This is North Dakota Legislative Review. I'm Dave Thompson. Thanks for joining us. Our last legislative review of the 2013 legislative session. The session wrapped up 1 week ago, and here joining us to talk about the session and what happened is Governor Jack Dalrymple. Governor, thanks for being here.
I'm glad to be here, Dave. Thank you.
If you were a teacher right now, how would you grade the 2013 session?
Honestly, I would give it an A. And, of course, anybody who's been involved seems like they always want to say something positive at the end of a legislative session. But really, in terms of the overall results, achieving the goals that we set out to achieve, and really having a lasting positive impact on the state, I think this ranks right up there with the very top sessions.
Do you consider it to be a groundbreaking session?
I do, totally. And I think history will bear that out. Between massive tax relief, education reform, tremendous investments in the infrastructure across the state, I think it's going to have a lasting impact.
Yeah, let's talk about tax relief to start out, because you mentioned it first. The legislature went a little further than what you had proposed in terms of tax relief, in terms of income and corporate taxes. But I think the property tax was about the figure you were thinking of. Is that correct?
Yeah, it would be just a little bit more positioned just a little bit differently. But I'm very happy that they basically accepted the proposal that we developed, which is to deliver property tax relief through the school districts.
Why did you do it that way?
Well, it's hard to explain in a few sentences, but basically it is a true property tax reform in the sense that the legislature now will decide, what is the right amount of money to do a good job of educating students. And then the local share of the cost is going to be controlled at around 60 mills. Now, mill is a term that most people don't deal with in their daily lives, but just by comparison, 5 years ago, the average general fund mill levy for a school was 200 mills. And now, going forward, it's going to be 60 mills. So that's about a 2/3 reduction in the actual tax rate for school districts. That's reform. That is set. That does not move around as we go into the future. And I think that's a much better scenario than what we've been trying to do in the past, the mill levy buy down, which we originally endorsed. But there were some shortcomings with that. A lot of people viewed that as just us helping to pay people's taxes.
So in this case, by buying down the mills, if it's not a mill levy buy down, but by saying, okay, we're going to fund schools at about 80% for the figure I saw, that this will actually be a fairly permanent property tax relief.
That's right. That's the key difference. We decide what is the amount of money needed per student. It's going to be around $9,000 a student. We take into account what the local district can raise with about 60 mills. But from there on, the state pays the cost. Much different, and the whole concept of a mill levy buy down is now gone.
Going back to your first session, as we talked, it was the 1985 session.
Right.
Did you ever think you'll get to 70% state funding, not even 80%?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, in those days, we were at about 50% and dropping. And I think we actually bottomed out at about 40% of the cost at one point, and everybody was very pessimistic that the state would ever be able to, get anywhere near this sort of goal of 70%. I don't even know where that goal originally came from, but I think everybody felt that, the state should do more and the local property taxpayer should be required to do less.
On the income tax and corporate tax side, you proposed a total package of about $125 million, or $150 million, was it?
125 altogether.
They went to 250. Is that sustainable?
I think it is sustainable. People have asked me, well, they, went beyond what you recommended. What about that? One thing that I like to mention is that we finalized our budget proposal about 8 months ago. And now here we are in May of 2013. Our revenue picture has improved substantially from last fall. More money has come in. The rate of revenue collections has gone up. So it's a bit different picture financially than it was even last summer. So I think looking at the total financial analysis now, ongoing revenue versus ongoing expenses, we feel that it's very manageable.
Of course, energy gets a lot of the credit for it, but it's not just energy. There's other growth that is being factored in.
Well, that's right, and I have to explain that again and again, not just in North Dakota, but to people outside North Dakota, that oil and gas is really just part of the story. And if you look at our economy statewide, it is really firing in all industries. The Red River Valley, for instance, has the same low unemployment as the rest of the state. And you see technology growing, you see advanced manufacturing growing. These are completely different industries that are also doing very well in North Dakota.
As a sidebar, we had no discussion about raising the minimum wage at this point.
No, and of course that's for the right reasons. That's not because it was overlooked, but it's because people, are able to command higher wages in North Dakota. The proof is in the statistics. North Dakota has the fastest growing personal incomes of all 50 states, and it has over the last several years. So, that's ultimately the test. We talked about more good paying jobs years ago, and that is being achieved.
One thing your administration and your counterparts in the legislature were able to accomplish was this idea about fast forward funding for infrastructure spending, roads, bridges, and to a certain extent some other infrastructure needs in the oil patch. That's a huge increase.
It really is, and those numbers can almost scare people at times. We're talking billions now most of the time, not millions. And in many ways, we're not used to that in North Dakota. We look at the increase in dollars, for instance, going out on one-time investments in roads and bridges and highways. Those are numbers we haven't seen before. So we talk about the importance of making these investments from our cash reserves, not building it into our ongoing budget requirements. And when you look at it that way, they're investments that are going to pay back for years to come. We don't have to repeat them if we find that we can't afford to. And it's the right use of our cash reserves.
Plus, when I mentioned fast forwarding, you actually got a bill through very quickly in the session to get money so it could be used almost immediately for this construction season.
Yeah, and I've had county commissioners and city councilmen come up to me and say, "Holy cow, Jack, you never did that before." The money showed up ahead of schedule. And, it's great to be able to do that. It's only because, we had cash on hand. And we said, why should we wait until July or August when we can get some bids out there right away for road work and other things? And people really appreciate that. You get much better planning, and you can also wind up getting better bids for your projects.
And of course, the counties out in the oil patch are going to be able to keep more of the tax collection now through the impact grants, through other programs to make sure that they can respond to their local infrastructure needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was a big part of the infrastructure package. The plan that we proposed to allow the counties and the other political subdivisions to keep a larger share of the oil tax revenue, and even at the high end of the scale, never go below 25% of the revenues that are coming in, no matter how high they get. That's going to make a huge difference. And the counties, in turn, share that money with the cities in their county, with the schools, and with the townships.
I'm going to just go off track for just a minute. In the final days of the session came the report from the USGS about more recoverable oil in the Bakken and Three Forks. Did that play at all into some of the discussions and some of the final decisions that were made?
No, it really didn't. That settled out actually pretty quietly. When we first saw that, we thought, oh, gee, there's going to be quite a bit of a argument about these figures, because even though it was about a doubling from the prior USGS estimate, the industry people have been telling us that it's far greater than 14 million barrels. So I think that quieted down. People are very satisfied that a doubling, according to USGS, which is very conservative, is a great sign of growth. And I think the private estimators would say it's even greater.
Just following up on that, Senator Cook had introduced a bill that would close the, quote, stripper well exemption, end quote, which is kind of a complicated exemption. But that would have brought more money in, and he wanted to make that as revenue neutral as possible. And he was going to lower the tax rate on wells drilled after 2017. I never got a chance to ask you about that. What did you think of that proposal?
Well, it was interesting, Dave, because yes, Senator Cook was interested in coming up with a bill that was revenue neutral. But in the end, the legislators said, no, we're not going to reduce oil taxes. We don't think we need to. We don't think it's the right time to do that. And in the end, the bill wound up actually having a positive fiscal note. We will actually collect more revenue by closing this one particular loophole. And it is a gaping loophole. It's something that could really be exploited. So it was only correct to close the loophole, but kind of an odd effect that really I don't think anybody expected, that we would actually have like a positive increase in revenue collections.
Do you know the figure offhand?
Well, they talk about $100 million. One of those things that's hard to estimate because, you never know what would have happened otherwise. But it's significant. And it's a loophole that needed to be closed. The stripper well concept is that, when a well gets down to very low production, say under 35 barrels a day, that you could give an incentive to develop that area a little bit more and prolong the life of the well. It was developed in the days of vertical drilling, when people were drilling into a pool. Nowadays, if you drill a well alongside that well and you use horizontal drilling, you could come up with a very high production well. And it was never intended that that incentive be used for a brand new Bakken well that produces, say, over 1,000 barrels a day.
Shows you how much the technology has improved since those times, too.
Well, that's right. And we need to keep up with the proper terminology because really it's an entirely different proposition from the old drilling days.
Thinking about $100 million, back when you were chairman of appropriations in the House, did you ever think that you'd have $100 million lying around that, gee, we've got an extra $100 million, we don't know what to do with it?
It would have been a dream. It's so interesting for me because I've been through probably the worst of times in North Dakota back in the late 80s. I was the chairman of appropriations when we had no extra money whatsoever. And now I'm seeing, this complete reversal. When I was chairman, we would work all winter long, trimming budgets, trying to find efficiencies and savings so that we could develop an ending fund balance of about $10 million. Today, as we look at reserves in the billions of dollars, it almost makes you laugh. But thank goodness we did. Those years of frugality during the difficult times in North Dakota, that's what's really set us up for what we are enjoying today. Because we didn't have a lot of carryover debt. We didn't have any financial problems that we created. And so all of these good things that are happening are all to the plus.
And of course, you've got a number of building projects in the university system. I believe all of them are going to be paid for with cash.
Yeah, and that's the only way to go. People say, gosh, that's an awful lot of spending on capital improvements on our campuses. But we have cash reserves with which we can do that. The reserves came from revenues coming in beyond anybody's forecast. And I think it's the right use of those reserves. We can stop doing it if we have to. And we don't need to be concerned about the payback on those investments. When you build a new medical school, that's going to pay back to our state for years to come.
Now, that was another thing the legislature changed from your budget recommendation. You recommended what was called, I think, Plan B, which was to add on to the existing school and renovate it, and the legislature came up with the money to do the whole enchilada, basically.
Yeah, and that's, very interesting and a little bit emblematic of the session overall. The board office, Higher Education Board Office, recommended $35 million for the medical school. I thought the plan for $68 million was a very nice, very generous plan. Frankly, maybe I would have recommended the brand new facility, but I never thought there was any chance that our conservative House of Representatives would go for that. And sure enough, they looked at the whole picture and they said, let's make the investment. This is the right time.
In the overall higher education budget, then, were you happy with the way things finally came out?
I was. I'm very pleased that the new funding formula that we helped bring forward, which bases all of our funding distribution on the basis of weighted student credit hours, was adopted. And I'm also pleased that all of the salary and inflation factors were included, money for security, money for oil impacts, and we wound up in a good place. As you know, it wasn't necessarily the smoothest ride that we've ever been through. There were some bumps along the way, but the main thing is we wound up in the right place.
There were quite a few bumps along the way, and it was one of the last budgets voted on in the session, but overall, you're very happy with the way it came out.
I am. We have, really, made steps forward in improving the overall management of higher education, which I think is what some people wanted. We are able to honestly say we made the big investments that we promised to make. And we've set ourselves on a path of understanding the costs per credit hour that it takes to deliver each and every course and each and every discipline on all 11 campuses. We've never had that before. It's much more transparent, it's much more understandable, and best of all, it is totally equitable.
And you think it's going to serve the students better?
It absolutely will. It's an incentive to run a university or college, with the goal of completing courses. We used to fund on the basis of enrollment, and that's a bit of the wrong target because, it doesn't do any good for students to sign up for a course and then drop out.
You mentioned the conservative House, and there was a bit of a tussle, shall we say, over your pay plan. Senate went along with the 4 and 4, the 4% per year, and of course, part of that goes to retirement. The House wanted to go 3 and 3 and put nothing more toward retirement. They settled at a 4 and 3 with retirement the first year, but not the second year. How do you reconcile that in terms of your budget proposal?
Well, I think it was a good result. As far as the salary, the net salary that the public employee will actually see, it's about the same. They did back off from the extra pension funding in the second year, and I think they just wanted to say, let's be sure, that we really need that extra money. I thought that now was the time, when times are good, to heal up, the pension funds completely, so we don't need to worry about them. But as you know, a lot of factors go into that, Dave, and if the stock market goes up some more, then the funds begin to look better. And then people will say, well, we don't need to withhold that money unnecessarily. So you can always look at it from two different directions. But the public employee in the end nets out very well. Plus there's money for better performance from a public employee. And there are also market adjustments which allow public employees to get extra money if they're being paid below the market.
And with the Dow at 15,000 now and above 15,000, maybe there's a little less urgency to do that.
I think that people are feeling more comfortable with our pension fund investments than they were, say, 2 years ago or 4 years ago. Understandably so. But nevertheless, this is a long-term proposition. The key is that we have sound funds 35 years from now, not today, but far into the future. We need to be confident that they're going to be there.
If there was an issue that might have been a bit of surprise to some people, was probably the water issue, both the Western Area Water Supply Project and of course the dust up, if you want to call it that, over the Fargo-Moorhead Diversion Project. Mm-hmm. From your perspective, did that settle out okay?
It really did. The Western Area Water Supply situation was probably one of the most challenging public policy debates that I've ever seen in my life. A very fundamental sort of breakdown in the way that people thought water should be supplied, whether it should come from independent providers or whether there should be sort of a master water system supported by the state that would, provide more water throughout the northwestern North Dakota. In the end, they reached, I think, an outstanding compromise, one that I would not have foreseen myself as we went into it. But some good legislative work was done. It was a fine example of how the legislative process can really, work very well as people were forced to compromise and bend a little bit and get together and make a common decision and avoid a lot of contention, a lot of potential litigation and other problems. As far as Fargo is concerned, we're in this kind of in-between place right now. I heard Senator Hoeven talking on the radio about trying to get the authorization for the diversion project. That's the next step in the process. But what we did at the state level was provide $100 million towards flood protection in Cass County. And we did it in such a way that whether or not a major diversion project comes through or does not come through, that money will be well spent. And it will provide a lot of flood protection, and not one penny of state money will be wasted.
I have to ask this question then too. You did veto, I think, 2 bills?
Yes.
Do you have any others that you're going to dig the veto pen out for?
We are not finished signing bills. There are a few that we are still analyzing and discussing a little bit. I'm not going to do any major vetoes. I may as well tell you that right now today. But there are a few sections that we're looking at. I want to be sure that they work the way they're meant to.
So what gave you the most heartburn this session?
Honestly, Dave, people have asked me that, was there something that disappointed me or something like that? And looking at the whole picture, I can't honestly say that there was anything, really bothersome about the end result. Our targets and the goals that we set in our budget message have very much been met, and in some cases, then some. Even a little more property tax relief than we called for. So as far as I'm concerned, a great result. And I want to commend the legislators. They put in their full 80 days, and they work very, very hard. And it's really not an easy job. And I think, we owe them some gratitude.
So what do you do now in preparing for the next session? I know it's very early, you just got through with this session, but how do you build on this? Very, very briefly.
Well, you know, as I look ahead, Dave, I got this question already this week. So much achievement in tax relief and infrastructure spending and reforms, you know, what's next? What I see is more and more attention on quality of life questions in North Dakota. And, you know, we now have the wherewithal, you know, to do the things we want to do to create our own future for North Dakota. And that means we need to, you know, talk about what it is we want.
And I have to stop you right there. Time is fleeting.
Okay, with this, it's always great to talk with you. The time goes fast.
Thanks, Governor, for being here.
Yeah, okay.
Our guest on Legislative Review, Governor Jack Dalrymple, to wrap up the season. For Prairie Public, I'm Dave Thompson.